Hi everyone, if you could all please mute yourselves and turn off your camera as you're coming in. Just keep yourself muted throughout the entire webinar, and if you want, you can keep your camera on if you'd like. Sometimes it works a little bit better if you keep it turned off. As I'm going through, if you have questions, some of you may be answering or submitting these into the community forum, or you may be submitting them into the assignment or the help desk area as well, or IT help desk area. So you can submit them in here as I'm going through, basically. So I'll have an opportunity at the end of this webinar to run through some of your queries. So please do post them in the chat box. And if you don't feel comfortable doing so, or you prefer not to, you can email us in. And I think I have the email at the end of this webinar that I'll show you where you can email, so you can send that in. Or you can ask in the forum as well. There's an opportunity to ask there. So this is basically a whole breakdown of the exam for Pro, Specialism, and CDMP. So it's the kind of exam that you have at the end of your journey, which generally is 24 weeks, but you can take the exam prior to this. So I'm going to run through the whole thing now, but as I say, if you have questions, do let me know. If at any point you cannot hear me or see me, or there's an issue with audio, please do write into the chat and let me know. At times I will just be admitting more people into this webinar, so please, if I look like I'm preoccupied, don't worry, I'm probably just admitting more people in. Okay, so this is basically an overview of what we're going to go through here. Registering, online exam, taking your exam, what happens if you don't pass, exam format, revision tips, and some more revision tips. And I'll show you a little bit around, if you're familiar, a lot of you may be the June cohort, so you might have just started your journey with DMI in June, or you may have started your journey earlier. Whenever you started, that's totally fine, but some of you may be familiar with your classroom forums and the general forum. You will see in the general forum a lot of queries, questions, and advice on the exam. A lot of people post in to say, you know, I just passed the exam with 83%, and here's what I did. Or I didn't pass the first time, but I passed the second time. So it's a really good place to get advice on all things exam if you haven't been in there yet. So first of all, registering for your exam. So when you start here with us, a lot of you, let's say some of you started in June, so your week 1 was the 1st of June. Around now or next week, kind of from week 4 to 6, you will get basically your DMI exam package email and everything you need to register for your exam, to complete your exam, to book your exam, and to know everything about your exam basically is in that email. So you will get that email around week 4 to 6 of your course. So just be sure that your email is up to date, that, you know, DMI emails aren't going into junk mail or spam. Just ensure that you have the correct setup there. Now some of you may already have a in some cases you already have a Pearson account if you were previously with DMI, but most of you will not. So you receive your email, and in your email will be instructions on how to create your Pearson VUE account. So to create Pearson VUE account, check the name is the exact same as the valid government ID you would use to confirm your identity. So your government ID name is the name that you need to use when creating your Pearson account. So it has to be your official name. Have your candidate ID number ready. This information is in the email above. If you already have a Pearson VUE account, please, for Digital Marketing Institute exams, please select sign in and use the login details you previously created. Select a date and time with your eligibility period. Use voucher code to waive first seating fee. So we sometimes get a lot of questions. Do you have to pay for the exam? No, the first time you sit the exam, you do not have to pay. That's included in your voucher code, and all the information about your voucher code and paying for free is given to you in that important email that you get around week 4 of your time here. I just got a question in there. I'm going to go through them at the end of the webinar, if that's okay. But please do keep sending in email, or sorry, sending in chats, and I will go through them at the end of this. And if I can't answer them, or if someone else is better suited, then I will get you to send them into to our inbox or email here, and I will ask you, sorry, I'm just admitting someone there. I will ask you to send them in there, and we will get back to you on there as well, or on the forum. So there's a couple of places you can kind of get to contact us. Okay, so now I just want, did I go? Sorry, apologies. Let me just go back. Okay, okay. So just make sure everyone is muted, okay? I just want to make sure when you're coming in, just keep yourself muted because it's just easier for everybody that way. Okay. Sorry, apologies. My clicker here is acting up on me. Okay, so the online exam. Now are we on the right page? We are. Okay. So online exams, so a lot of you, well, some of you won't be, depending on maybe the country you're in or what the restrictions are in your country. Some of you will be testing from home. Some of you will now be going back into centers, which is great. You can kind of go through the whole process the old kind of fashioned way. Some of you may be able to go into a center, but you'd actually prefer to do it. You prefer to do it from your online comfort of your own home, which is totally understandable as well. So the online exam registration is Pearson VUE. So you get a PAC code for online exams. You will need this code. It is in the email mentioned above. So that is the same email that you're getting on your week 4 to 6, your registration email, which will also contain your PAC code, which is your code for registering for your exam online. This is also in the DMI knowledge base in the support area of My DMI. Test your connectivity and system before you book your test to ensure that you meet the IT requirements. So all the information on how to do this, on how to kind of make sure that your equipment is set up for the day, that before the exam you kind of are able to perform your system test, that your laptop is set up, that you have your ID, all of that is in the support area of My DMI. So I'll show you where to go to that, where to go to check that in a minute, but it's the support area. You may have already seen it in My DMI, but it's good to get comfortable and get used to going to that area as well. Before test day, you must complete an on-view system test, that's what I was just talking about, an exam simulation to make sure you meet the online testing requirements. If you are registered and your system fails, that counts as a failed attempt at the exam. So it's really important to do this test before you actually get to the exam, because there'd be nothing worse than being ready to go, completely prepared, and then you get in there and your system has failed you and then they revoke the exam. So please be sure to do that test before actually going in and sitting your exam. Okay, so taking your exam, what to know on the day. This is for the online. Okay, so the online option. Delivered by Pearson VUE. Okay, so these are the guys that you're going to be setting up your account with. Any technical issues on the day must be resolved by Pearson. The DMI does not have access to their system. So if on the day of the exam there's something happening and your computer is not working or there's something technical going on, you will need to contact Pearson directly if that's happening during the exam, because the system that you're using is hosted by Pearson VUE, so they will be able to troubleshoot that with you. Because the system isn't hosted by DMI, we ourselves won't be able to troubleshoot that with you. So it's supervised by a proctor, which is just a person basically who sits there and kind of watches you and kind of has an overview of your whole area. So you have to make sure that you're abiding by the rules, that you don't have, it's not an open book exam, right? So you've no study notes, you've no pen, you can have one clear glass of water, you cannot have any food, you cannot have any only clear water. So you can't have like Coke or juice or tea, nothing like that. It has to be clear water. And results, so if you do take your exam online, results will be in your Pearson account by the end of the day. You cannot leave the screen or the camera view. Okay, so you need to stay in front of that screen for the entirety of the time, and you cannot leave. Okay, now I'm just going to, what do I do if I do not pass? So you need to get a grade of 60% or higher is required to pass. Also, it's important to note that the vast majority of people will pass. So most of you here will pass this exam. I think we have about an 85 or more percentage rate of passing. So like vast majority of people are going to pass this. So if you're paranoid or worried, or you're getting a bit stressed, you know, hopefully I can give you some tips or just reassurance on what you need to do to kind of feel more prepared or feel more comfortable in the exam. So you get 3 attempts to pass. Okay, now it's really important to know that those 3 attempts must be taken within the 24-week eligibility period. So you don't get 1 attempt, fail, and then wait, you know, many weeks and then fail it again. All 3 attempts must be taken within the 24 eligibility week period. Okay, and if you do fail the first time, the second time around, you do have to pay a fee. So the first time you take the exam, it's free. But if you fail and you need to take it a second time, it is €60 or the equivalent of your country's currency. But I can assure you, if you study and kind of take the time to map this out for yourself, take the time to kind of go through it slowly and piece by piece, you will pass. Also using the practice exam tool, I will go through a little bit of that as well with you guys. The practice test, the practice exam tool, really, really useful for just benchmarking where your weak points are, improving what you need to study, you know, getting a whole overview of what you're good at and what you need to work on. So it's a really good area to look at. Okay, so what is the exam format? So it's 3 hours, okay? There's 180, sorry, I'm just gonna admit someone there. It's a 3-hour exam and there's 180 to 200 questions. Okay, so I think there's 100 questions on the practice exam that we have here, and you can take that as many times as you want. So there's a little bit more, there are more questions in the actual exam, but they're very much modeled and based off the practice exam that we have here. All 10 modules are included in the exam. So a lot of people ask, is there a particular focus? So like, where should I kind of put my main energy into in studying for this exam? And really it's divided equally across all 10 modules. There's not a particular area where you need to focus in on more. I would advise, and you know, a lot of students as well want to know, you know, will I have to kind of like do up all these formats or tables or you know, views on analytics, and you won't have to actually do anything on Google Analytics or on your Google Ads, but you will be asked questions based on using it. So you need to have a general idea on how to use it. You don't need to be an expert at it. You don't need to be, you know, very skilled in these accounts or in these programs, but you need to be able to go in there, and if they ask you a question like a hotspot question and say, you know, where would I go to show how many people in North America right now are looking at my landing pages at, you know, at this time, or at different things like that. So they'll kind of show an image of Google Ads, and you might be asked to click on where you would go, as an example, to show up the correct report. So, and it's not going to be very complicated things. It's a general overview of knowing how to use this, and it's anything that you will be asked is covered in those modules. So they're not going to throw surprise questions at you. I think some students do find that they spend more time in Google Ads and in Google Analytics themselves, just because it takes a little bit of practice just to get using those tools. And definitely when it's something practical like that, I know myself, I need to be in there kind of using it to get the best experience and to feel like I know what I'm doing, basically. So they're all multiple choice. They're actually very similar question styles to when you're going through the modules. You'll see practical exercises and quizzes at the end of every module. And the way they're formatted is the very same way they will be formatted on the exam. So we do that on purpose because we want people, as you're going through the modules and seeing the questions that are there and seeing the practical exercises, we want them to be very much modeled on the exam. So you can see, as I was saying, talking about hotspot, there's image supported, matching, drag and drop, ranking and ordering. So a lot of these you will be familiar with just from going through the quizzes in the actual module themselves. Okay, so revision tips. So this is broad, and you know, I think because this is an independent learning experience, everybody's going to have different ideas on how they revise, and what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So this is by no means a kind of a go-to model that you have to follow. But basically, we would advise to review the lecture videos and slides, especially if English is not your first language. Understand the terminology used. So it's a really good idea as well, actually, if English is not your first language, to look at the transcripts. So, or to bring up, there is an option as you're going through these videos. I don't know if you probably are aware of this or not, but there is an option to put in your captions. So you can turn on your captions. And it's really useful for speakers of another language, because when you're listening to someone speak, and sometimes speak quite quickly, it can be really difficult to follow. So turn on the captions and look at the transcripts as well as you're going through it. Look at the study notes as well. The study notes are kind of like an abridged format of the overall material, but the transcripts, I think, are particularly useful for speakers of another language. Familiarize yourself with all the information on your course info tab. So that's another really good idea. Your course info tab is at the top right-hand corner of your module home, and that will be next to your practice exam and next to your class forum. So I'll show you that in a moment, but just so you're aware, that's where it is. If you are unclear on certain technical aspects, spend extra time to revise them. So this would be referring to some of the more technical modules, which might be Google Ads, it might be Google Analytics, it might be Facebook or social media. So just to kind of give yourself the time to go through some of that kind of terminology as well. I don't know if you've come across our glossary, but the glossary is a really good place to go through a lot of the technical and kind of more, I guess, digital marketing speak. Because I think when you come on to this course as a beginner and you hear some of the words and some of the phrasing, and you're kind of going, I have no idea what that means. I've never heard this word before. You know, I need to understand it before I can kind of fully understand the rest of the material. The glossary is a really good place to get a rundown of all of that kind of information. So I'll show you that in a moment as well. Test yourself on key terms. Have someone ask you questions on the terms that are highlighted in the module lectures. Handbooks, use the glossary. So that's the same place I was just speaking about. It's, you know, a lot of students make index cards. They kind of make a whole folder dedicated to each module and divide it out that way. Some students print out, and you know, it's I guess it's kind of expensive, but they do print out the entire all of the notes, all of the study notes, and they get it all in a book kind of form. They just do it all in one go, and then they go through it every evening after watching the actual lecture videos. They go through and highlight it. So, you know, it really depends on your learning style. Some people are so used to everything being online, learning online and screen time, that they don't need to see the physical thing in front of them, and they can just go through study notes and maybe use even like a dashboard like a Trello or a Mind Map or a Google Doc, and use that to then make their own study notes online. And if that works for you, perfect, you know, that's perfect. Other people need the physicality of something, so they need to be able to print out the notes and look at them physically in front of them and go through it that way, which is another option as well if you do need to do that. Sometimes what happens, and I would advise you, before you leave, before your time is up in the course, be sure to download any of the information, any of the study notes or the PDFs or the modules themselves, anything that you find particularly useful from the course. Do make sure that you download and save that on your desktop before you leave, before your time is finished in the course, unless you have a Power membership subscription, in which case, if you do have a Power membership subscription, you will hold that indefinitely. So as long as you pay for that every year, you will hold that and you will keep the access to your course. If you do not have that, just be sure that you are, I'm just admitting one more person, just ensure that you are downloading everything beforehand. Okay, so this is just a continuation of some more study tips. Use the practical exercises to improve your knowledge. I think I was speaking a little bit about that before. that the practical exercises really follow on and model of the actual exam. So it's important to get used to the layout and the format of them. Ensure you have a good working knowledge of online platforms such as Google AdWords or Google Ads. We should update that to Google Ads, analytics, social media platforms, and so on. So yeah, you know, Facebook Business Manager is probably one that people use a lot, Google Ads and analytics as well. So a working knowledge is not an expert knowledge, but a working knowledge is important. Revise the course content in sections using the summary of each section for guidance. So that's a really nice idea. You know, you don't have to follow through with this entire course from beginning to end. You know, there is an order of it for a reason. So there's a reason why the modules are set out 1 to 10. That doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. If you're particularly interested in, or you have a little bit more information in content marketing, please feel free to start there. Or if not, if you feel like you're better at SEO, start there. So it really depends on your own preference. Write or type notes while you watch the lecture videos. Again, this is dependable. So for you, you might find that, yeah, I really like to write things down physically and it really helps me. So I'm going to do that as I'm watching. Other people find like, no, I'd rather kind of maybe even copy and paste some of the transcript and place that in a Google Doc and do it that way. Or maybe I'd pause the video, take notes, go back, watch the video again. So it's really dependent on how you best study yourself. Exam tips for planning. Okay, so questions from additional readings. Okay, it's important to note things like case studies, guest, tutored webinars, any webinars that are content based that you might, I think we did one on email marketing last week, but anything that is content based webinars or case studies in the actual course, they won't be included on your exam. Okay, so I know sometimes people think the DMI sprint courses, so you may see that some of you have access to sprint courses. These are not included in your exam, okay? The only thing included in your exam is the modules 1 through 10. Create your study plan of time you can dedicate to study. Yeah, so that's a really important one. I mean, you can plan to study for half an hour every day, and that just isn't possible. Some days, yeah, okay, some days you might do an hour or you might do 2 hours. Some days you might do none. And it's really important to remember that you're not going to do the same thing every day, because some days you don't have time, some days you are too stressed, you're too busy, you're too tired, you're too hungry. Whatever it is, you're not going to be able to do the exact same study plan every day. So do keep that in mind, which means dedicate yourself to a flexible study time. Okay, so kind of have an idea of what you want to do each day. So you can do 15 minutes, maybe to an hour of study. These days, this day I can definitely do a half an hour because it fits in on my day. On the weekends, I can kind of only do about, you know, X amount of time. So really think about week to week how you need to tweak your study plan, because you can set it for a month in advance, but there's no point in doing that because every week you will need to go back to your study plan and revise it because other things are happening in your lives besides this. So it's really important that you're updating your study plan regularly. Work in short bursts with breaks in between. Decide what time of the day suits you. So some of you might be better morning people. I find that I do work well in the morning when I'm forced to. And then in the evening, you know, you get sleepy, you get tired, you don't really, you know, or some of you then, and then you take a break, maybe go for a walk, and then you come back into it and you're really into it. So, you know, kind of, you know yourself best. Make sure you devise your study plan around who you are as a person. And then the basic things, make sure that you're eating, you're sleeping, and relaxing. If you're really stressed or tired, information isn't going to go in, it's not going to stick. And I suppose just remember that this isn't a huge deal. You know, take this at your own pace. Don't put too much pressure on the whole idea of it. I can guarantee you that if you make a study plan that suits you and you take this at your own pace and you take your time with it and you use the resources available to you, then you will pass. Okay, so there does not need to be a large amount of stress or pressure. That only happens when you do absolutely nothing and then wait until the night before, and then you're under a lot of stress. You know, and some people work better that way, and maybe you do. I would not advise it, but as it can lead to a lot of stress. Okay, this is the last slide I wanted to show you before I show you some of the other content, but admin@digitalmarketinginstitute.com. Okay, so that's where you can email if you have specific exam queries, and normally Alison or Trudy or myself will get back to you on there as well. Okay, and I just want to show you here. So, okay, one thing that we're offering that is new is exam breaks. Okay, so this is a very important page to look at and research before you, before you start your exam. So I just went in here to support, and then I searched here exam breaks. Okay, searched it in this box, and I scroll down. I'm not going to read through all of this, but I would like you to, in your own time, go through it. Okay, so the maximum amount of time allowed per exam, time allowed per exam of overall time, break time is 18 minutes. Okay, so you can pause the clock up to and no more than 3 times in your exam. Okay, please ensure you inform your invigilator before clicking pause the clock. So this is for an online exam situation. Okay, so you must inform your invigilator that you're taking a break before you click on the pause the clock. Okay, and the following steps highlight how to pause the clock during the exam. So this is basically demonstrating, where do I pause? What does it look like when I click this? How long do I have? And it goes through the following of kind of basically the logistics of doing that. But please remember to note that the exam breaks only apply to students sitting the DMI Pro course examination. Okay, so they don't apply to the specialisms. They only apply to the pro course. Okay, you must inform the invigilator before you click pause the clock, otherwise your exam might be revoked. Okay, so really important that you tell your proctor, your invigilator, that you're about to pause the clock before you do so. The exam break feature only applies to new registrations received and processed after May the 9th. Okay, so that should all include you guys. Unless you're an earlier cohort, it won't include you, but you have to be registered after May the 9th for this to work for you. Okay, and there's a full list of FAQs here, which I would advise you to go through, because it's really important that you just follow the rules in terms of pausing, only taking the specific amount of time to pause. Make sure you tell your invigilator before you do so. In my opinion, I would actually avoid taking a break, okay, unless you really have to, unless you might be, I know for instances, you could be pregnant, you could have an issue with just a physicality issue, you know, there might be many reasons why you need to. I would, to kind of take that pressure away from you, just to make your life a little bit easier, I would avoid using the break and not use it, and just kind of stay through the end of the exam. Now, the other thing I just wanted to show you when you're in your course, so I'm going to go into my DMI Pro here. Okay, so normally you will have your exam voucher here after about week 4 to 6. Okay, it'll appear here. Practice tests. Okay, if you haven't already, it's a really good place to go into. It's the 100 questions based on the exam, and it's a really good run through it. It's a really good example of what's going to happen on the actual exam day. Take it many times. I would advise you to repeat take it. Okay, go through your results. They'll be down here, and they'll be detailed in how where you're doing well, where you're not doing so well. But a really good idea is to go through all of those. And then back into my courses again, the second place, if you have not looked at already, there is a lot of information in your course info tab, and that is, if I go back here, that is here. Okay, so if you're in here and we scroll down, you can see introduction, level assessment, exam overview. So this is all exam. Okay, exam overview, exam format, exam eligibility, booking exam, Pearson VUE online booking system, rescheduling or cancelling exams, exam accommodations form, certificate information. Okay, so really, really thorough, really good idea to go through all of that, understand it, get the information. If you're still, if this isn't giving the information that you need from here, then you can go and email on that email that I left at the end of the slide. But I would truly advise you to kind of check out the area here to make sure it is there or is not there before you go ahead and email. Now there's someone coming in a little bit late here, but I'm just going to allow them in anyway. You probably know this already, but just in case you don't, to actually speak to someone, okay, go to contact, and again, common questions, slides or issues with the actual content, reschedule my current exam booking, power membership, how do I log CPD? Okay, so there's a lot of common queries there before you actually go down to submit your form. This will bring you to actually speak to one of us, okay? So most of the information that you need is actually in the course info tab that I was just showing you, or it's available here. If you still need a very specific question to your particular circumstances or situation, by all means reach out here, but just be aware that there are places for you to go to for support before you go there. Okay, now I'm just gonna have a look and see what we have in terms of questions. Okay, oh, actually there's one more area I want, anyway, okay. Regarding the DMI sprints, okay, so remember the sprints are not included in the exam. Oh yeah, you actually asked this question, that's fine, Irene. These modules are not included in the exam. No, they are not included in the exam. Also, if I decided to take the exam earlier, I will still have access to these 6 extra modules and DMI resources. Yes, exactly. So if you decide to take the exam earlier, that does not make a difference. Your actual eligibility period is 24 weeks. So you will absolutely still have access to these 6 modules and to all the DMI resources. Okay, so that's no problem at all. Also, the exam is not open to book. It will be live. The exam is not open to book. It will be live exam, sharing my camera, etc. Yeah, so if you can, I think what you're asking, if you cannot go into a test center, right? So if you have to book your exam via online Pearson View, okay, there will be a live camera. So there'll be a camera there like there is one right now, and it will be a proctor or someone watching you as you're doing your exam. Okay, and you will be able to book from week 6 onwards. Okay, so once you get your registration, that email, I know some of you joined in late, so just to remind everyone now, on week 4 to 6 of your journey, you should get an exam registration email. Okay, and that email is vital. Make sure you check your spam folders or your anywhere else that they might go to be lost folders, and all the information you need for your exam is in there. Okay, so that's a really important registration email that you get around week 4 to 6. Okay, is there more than one practice exam available? So yes, that's a good question. Now we have that one place I showed you was the practice exam. There is also an exam prep area. Now they have updated this recently, but I'm just going to see if I actually can get, I know I have access to this here, but it is the version 9, or sorry, the version 8, but the question still very much applies. So I'm just going to go in here. This is actually really useful for specialist courses, because I know the practice exam, the 100-question practice exam that I was showing you guys earlier, is much more focused into the pro course, and some of the specialist courses might be feeling like, what about me? This area is really good for you. Okay, so if you go again to support, type in exam prep, scroll down here, exam prep area, and we're going to click into it, and it's going to basically bring me into all of these. Okay, so I've got all my specialisms here along with my CDMP. Now I know it says version 8 here. We actually have the updated version of 9 for there as well, so we'll be sharing that in there as well. But for now, you could the quizzes and the format and how it's used is really similar. So you can practice on this one as well, absolutely. So I'm just going to go in here, and then it's going to bring me here. Okay, so it's a full breakdown of all of the specialisms here. And it's basically all the quizzes, individual module quizzes that you would have been going through in your modules, kind of accumulated into one place. Okay, so that's where you'll have them all in there. Now, and there's also a skills test. Now, the skills test we generally advise students to take at the beginning of their kind of journey, because it's a really good benchmark. If you have a little bit of experience already in digital marketing, if you're a little bit aware of it already, it's a good idea to take that test, because you can kind of go, oh, I'm actually a little bit better at Google Ads than I thought, or I know a little bit more about content marketing than I realized. So I would go here into the skills test, and you can take that. I think that's about 60 to 65 question test. Okay, so it's a really good one for a general kind of a benchmark, and you can again view your results here then too. Okay, I'm just going to go, is there more? Will we be tested on how to use the tools? So Chloe, you will be tested, do you mean the tool as in the Google Ads and analytics? In terms of anything you will be tested on basically will be in your modules. So in terms of, let's say, the tools being the programs like Google Ads, like analytics, like Facebook Business Manager, you would be tested to have a good working knowledge of them. So they won't ask you to open a brand new Google Ads account right there in the exam, open it and, you know, do X, Y, and Z with it. No, that's not going to happen. The questions will be hosted in the exam. Okay, so that means that there'll be hotspot questions. They'll already be pre-made. You will just have to click on the right area. Let's say they create like a sandbox account, which you will see in your modules already. So they'll create this sandbox account, and you just have to go in and click on the right tool to get the right view or the right report up. Okay, so it's a working knowledge, but you do not have to open a new account and kind of showcase your skills that way. It's all going to be inside the actual exam, if that makes sense. And you can test that itself. You can test that with walkthroughs. We have really good walkthroughs that one of our instructors, Cathal Meelan, you probably will have come across Cathal already if you're kind of going through the modules, but he does really good walkthroughs on those things. So I would definitely type into your research area up here. If you just type in walk through, and you'll get Twitter ads there, YouTube ads, Google optimization, SEO, Google ads. Okay, so that's a really good walkthrough to go through to get a kind of a whole overview of a general understanding. As I say, nobody expects you to be expert, so nothing that is not in those modules you will be tested. Okay, everything that you will be tested is in those modules. Where are the live webinar dates? Could we get reminders about them? Yeah, thanks. It's a good question, Dara. They're every Monday, and there is a doc, and I'll actually share that doc here in this with you guys here. They're rolling, okay, and they're recorded. So this is being recorded right now. All of them are being recorded, okay? So anything that is all of these are recorded and available for you. So they're every Monday at 4 o'clock, and then for PG students, which you don't have to worry about actually, but they're on a different set. So you can see the upcoming webinars, and you can see when they will be, and you can see the recordings of them all in that sheet that I just sent on to you. Okay, let me just see down here. Do we still have access to the course and the resources after the exam? So yeah, Katerina, if you complete the exam before the 24 weeks, then yes, you do. If you are a Power member, which is that you have a membership subscription to DMI, then yes. If you do not have a membership subscription, and you are finished, the 24 weeks, then you will no longer have access to the module material. But for 12 months, you will have access to the actual, for 12 months, you will have access to membership. Okay, so from the date you sign on, let's say you signed on 1st of June, you will have access to membership from June 1st until June 1st, 2022. Okay, so you'll have it for a year. To get access to your actual modules indefinitely, you will need to be a power member and certified. Okay, so you need to pass the exam, be certified CDMP, and also be a power membership. Okay. Does that exam registration email come from Pearson or from DMI? That comes from DMI. Okay, so that's the exam registration email on week 4 to 6, and it comes from DMI. Okay, where do you practice on the software? Google Ads. That's a good question, Patricia. There are sandbox accounts in your actual Google Ads module 5 that you can practice on. The walkthroughs is another really good place as well. Or what's really helpful for, particularly for Google Analytics have a demo free account. Okay, so if you type in, maybe I can get it up. I used to have it bookmarked here, but I don't know if I still do. Oh, here, look. Okay, I'm going to send you this as well. Sorry, that might be a long link. It's a free account. Okay, it's a free demo account from Google Analytics, and it's really good to practice on because it's a whole view of it. Okay, it's really good to practice on, not just for this exam, but for work, because ideally you guys are either already working in digital marketing or you want to be working in digital marketing. So it's a really good idea to get a rundown of that. The same thing for Google Ads. You can actually create a Google Ads account. If you type in Google Ads, you can create a new account. You do have to add in a card, but you do not have to set anything live. So that means it's particularly useful if you know someone, if you are in digital marketing, or you know someone who's has a business or using Google Ads. You don't actually have to create an ad, change biddings, make big changes in there. You can literally just go through. I'm just going to go back to the other page, but you can go through the basics on there, and it's a really good idea to kind of get used to it. I'm just going to keep that email up in the background as well for you guys to have, okay, because it's an important email to have. Oops, sorry. Okay, where do you the templates and charts that we download, such as email ROI calculator. Okay, sorry, Chloe, and you asked would it be no? Okay, no. So things like templates and charts, no, they're the templates. So I think I know what you're talking about, the email ROI or the persona chart, the persona builder chart template, things like this. No, you will not be tested on them. They're there as an aid to help you. Okay, so they're to kind of help you understand some of the material, or even use in your own working life. Okay, so to use in your job. The more practical stuff like that will not be tested in it. Okay, it's the actual content and the practical to the practicalities of Google Ads and Facebook Business Manager and Google Analytics. Okay, no problem, Chloe. Okay, if you have any more questions, okay, do send them into this email address or write them in your class forum. The general forum, I keep an eye on the general forum all the time. I'm in there every day, so I will check there as well. Okay, and please just remember to keep yourself well rested and well fed and all the rest while you're practicing, and don't stress about the exam, because that's kind of the worst thing you can do, and you will then be totally fine. Okay, so I'm just going to go back in here and stop my share. Okay, thank you so much for staying with me, and I hope to see you all soon or talk to you again soon. Okay, thanks guys, take care, bye-bye.